So I think one of the funnest things about starting a new job is when you get into that job and you are in discovery phase, right? I mean, you're going into this workplace and every day is just constant learning. You're just bombarded with information, and I love that part. I know that's overwhelming for so many people, but I love change, and I just love that early discovery phase where it's like, what the hell is going on here? I will never forget a job that I went into, obviously HR leader, and I got invited to this recurring meeting that was just called LOA review, which stood for leave of absence review, right? And I was like, interesting. Like, is this with the GM? Is this with the leadership team? Like, is this with health and safety? Like, who is this with, right? I click on it and it's with all of the site admins. And I'm just like perplexed, like, okay, like, what's the context of this? Like, what are they reviewing, right? And so, I asked off to the side, what is this? Oh, well, we go through everyone who's out and, and all of this. Oh, wow. Okay.
With all the people that don't need to know.
I go, how long has this been going on? Oh, years. This is how we keep track of people, maybe keys or supplies, equipment, uniforms, whatever, right? Okay. So I roll up into this meeting and it's just as bad as it sounds, but it was actually worse. Because they had the list, which I don't know how they got the list of people, and they started going into detail. Well, this person is out because they have cancer and it's not going well, and now it's spread and all of this. I mean, this group of like 6 admins who, admins always know what's going on. And some of them, not all of them, and bless them, they're my favorite people at the workplace. But, they feel maybe entitled to a lot of information as well because they're constantly getting all the information. They always had the hot gossip and the scoops. And so here they were weekly talking about everyone's medical information, and really it was a gossip sesh. Like, I was like, God. Wow. Like after the first one, I was like, whoa, like questions. I've got all the questions here, like why is the first question, So that was the last leave of absence review meeting.
As it should be.
Isn't that wild?
Yes.
I mean, woo.
That is wild. And then I can imagine, because the why has to be, well, this is the way it's always been. And
of course.
we need to know as a fact. You don't. But then when you take that meeting away, I can imagine the hornet's nest that tossed up with those admins. Tell me that's right, Leigh.
Right. Of course, because it's that kind of entitlement. And well, since it is always the way we've always done it, and HR previous outsourced it to them. They gave them the list, but I don't think HR knew that they were having this meeting. They just were giving them the information of who's out, and then they were spending the week figuring out why the people were out and then coming together and talking about it. That was like the convergence of the gossip. Like, oh my gosh, it was a water cooler meeting. It was crazy. But no, they don't like that when people don't like being cut off from information, whether they should be privy to it or not. And it's like, you don't need the leave list.
Yeah, I was going to say whether they deserve to know it or not. Yeah,
exactly. You do not need the leave list. Someone goes out, we'll let you know. You can turn them off in the system, whatever. Someone comes back, we'll let you know. Reinstate the badge, whatever. I mean, that's it. It's
that is
wild.
Wow.
Isn't that something? Y'all ever have a leave of absence review meeting with a whole bunch of people that don't need to know?
Yes, but like with a peer and the manager, like someone in HR and their manager to kind of discuss not what the ailment is, but, return to work date or etc.
Yeah. So be careful when you start a new job and you're like, hey, invite me to any meetings I should be on. You get invited to things you really shouldn't be on either, but glad you were put on, so.
Yes.
I truly think there's no role like HR when you start a new job of seeing. It's validating to see how completely jacked up so many workplaces are and the things that happened. And you think to yourself, okay, now I'm here. How am I going to fix this? And that's what you got to do. You got to educate people and bring them with you and explain with a caring touch why they don't need to have that meeting and how they'd feel if they were them. And that one recurring meeting led to so many hours of work, I'm sure, Leigh.
Oh, of course. And it's like, but why not? Well, laws have evolved since the 40 years ago you started doing this. I mean, shit changes, right? When you know better, you do better too, right? So, But that was fun.
Sometimes searching for the right doctor is like a bad Mad Libs. You need a blank specialist. Who takes your blank insurance? Who doesn't have a blank month wait to get an appointment? Who can actually help you with blank issue? Well, ZocDoc makes it easy for you to fill in those blanks to help you find the right doctor for your specific needs. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors. Choose the right one for your needs and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I actually use ZocDoc to find doctors, and it's been a total game changer. Whether I need a specialist or just a quick checkup, I can book appointments online, see verified reviews from real patients. If you need a doctor, you should definitely check them out. So stop putting off all those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/HRBesties. Find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com. ZocDoc.com/HRBesties. ZocDoc.com/HRBesties.
Ding, ding, employee survey time. When you're an HR professional trying to make work better, did you know that SurveyMonkey can make your life easier in doing that? On HR Besties, we talk about how it's important to get feedback from employees and act on it. SurveyMonkey's ready-to-go HR survey templates can make it so much easier for you to know what and how to ask it. Because you want to get employee input and then act on it, so you're not just guessing, right? Well, these templates are designed for you, so you can gather targeted insights that directly support and enhance your HR strategies. When you know better, you do better, right? I've used SurveyMonkey to find out how people like to be recognized. Some people love to be celebrated publicly, but not everyone does. When you ask people their preferences and honor them, that's the HR support that people love. Go see how SurveyMonkey's HR templates can help you get the data-driven input you want, from manager effectiveness to benefits to job satisfaction. Go see them yourself and tell us how you use them. Transform your HR plans from guesswork to precision. Explore SurveyMonkey templates at SurveyMonkey.com. Share how SurveyMonkey drives your insights and strategies with us.
Oh gosh, the hot goss from the water cooler. Shall we kick off this meeting? Well, just a quick rundown of the agenda, if I may, and I will. We'll start with Cringe corporate speak, and Jamie, she's up at bat for that. And then we will shift into our hot topic of this meeting. And today it is all things accommodating disabilities at work. And so October is actually National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the U.S. And so we want to talk about disabilities at work and all things work accommodations. All right. So pretty big topic there. So Jamie, and of course at the end, my bad. Gosh, of course we will save room for questions and comments like we always do. Oh
Jamie,
God, I don't want you all to, I know, I don't want you all to think you won't have the stage. So, oh gosh, that was a close call. But Jamie, kick us off with our Cringe corporate speak.
For today, we're going to try to insert ping. So ping is typically used in Teams reference, Slack reference. Maybe you have some sort of office chat, but you're going to ping somebody, you're going to check on something. So I know that my boss used it a lot. Like she'd be like, I'm going to ping you later and we can touch base. I'm like, oh, it's just, I don't know what it is about that word. I want it to be a fun word because it sounds fun when you say it, but it's not a fun thing. I don't want to be pinged.
Yeah.
That's a good point, I think. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of saying it, and I do probably cringe when I say it as well. So maybe it's like a workout, but it is true because pinging someone generally means you're going to have a request and have like more things that you have to do. When someone, your quick ping is my long as shit, to do. So that's why it's less fun when you're on the receiving end of that ping.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to call upon you for you to, come up and do some crazy action and fulfill your responsibility. I mean, it is heavy. So that's why it's this cute, jovial little word. Ping. Oh, it's so cute,
I'm going to tickle you.
I'm going to ping you. I'm going to ping you. I'm going to ping you.
In appropriate sense.
Of course,
an appropriate tickle.
In an HR-approved way.
Yeah. Hands-off tickle. Like they tickle like a feather, like with a feather. Like, do you feel that? It's close,
like an ASMR brain tingle or something. I'm going to ping you.
Yes.
But no, really, I'm going to just fuck your day over. Is what that really means.
Oh my God. No.
Or night, or your night. I'll ping you later. No, please don't. Wait.
I got one at 6:30 this morning.
Nope.
I'm not kidding. And a couple weeks ago, we had a bad email go out, and it went out at 11:05, and I started receiving pings exactly at like 11:06. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is why I should not have Teams on my phone. But, that's my bad. And I'm not going to remove it.
Jamie wears a harness for a variety of reasons, including that she is a masochist.
Right. No. Oh, gosh. Ping. Well, that's a good one. Try and insert ping. That's what she said. Into your workday today. And enjoy that. Hopefully you don't get pinged, though. Just ping people. That can be your job today. Offload the responsibilities. Hey, small business leaders. Have you ever thought there's got to be an easier way to do all the busy work? Because I know I have. As a small business leader myself, wow. So many different issues pop up, don't they? Well, that's where JustWorks comes in, the all-in-one platform that supports small business growth. Access seamless tools that help with benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance with transparent pricing. It's time to make payroll painless. You can run your payroll in 90 seconds or less and automate payments so you can set it and forget it. Visit justworks.com/podcast to join the thousands of small businesses that trust JustWorks to take care of payroll, benefits, compliance, and more. That's justworks.com/podcast. Here's something I'm really looking forward to as the weather turns cooler. Football games. Remember, I went to a state school. Pumpkin spice lattes, soup. I love a creamy soup. And slipping into a cozy sweater from Quince. Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And it's not just that. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. That's right, less. That includes beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and so much more. In fact, I have this adorable, cozy blush pink hoodie that I am obsessed with. Even though I'm in Texas and it's still going to be a while till it gets cool outside, it's freezing inside. So that is my go-to. Love. So get cozy in Quince's high quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/HRBesties for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/HRBesties to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/HRBesties. Ooh, all right. So hot topic time, ladies. Let's dive in.
I can jump in. I love this. I can jump in. I know some Besties followers have talked in the past about these things. And so, nothing should be limited to a month, but it can be good to shine a light. And so with National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the US, it's really a global concept. And this came about in the US now, I think in the 40s. I think it's been in the 40s. Yes, and it did not have as progressive a name as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, but when you know better, you do better. And so a lot of this isn't about just a US thing. Yes, in the US, there's the Americans with Disabilities Act that covers certain employers, and there's state laws and all those things. But I think it's super important to think in HR, the way I phrase it a lot with organizations, and I'll do training on these, and I've had to do training for organizations that, they've been required to do it by the EEOC in the U.S., especially things like accommodations for the deaf and hard of hearing, and having those type of accommodations if someone applies and needs an interpreter, things like that. We will not ever give legal or professional advice on this show, but telling someone no without a consideration of that is generally just not a good idea. But in a lot of the trainings, like I will talk about technical things, but a global principle is when people have different needs at work, and those may be physical, mental, emotional, is flipping your thinking. Instead of what do we have to do, saying, what can we do? What can we do to support this person? And sometimes you will have situations where, especially maybe there's physical aspects of a lifting requirement that's like an absolute lifting requirement or a driving requirement, and someone can't do that. But people with disabilities at work, physical, especially physical, but even mental, emotional, those invisible disabilities or different abilities, they are often really fearful in their job search or what that work experience is like. There are people that in every aspect of their life, they have people stare at them. They have, they have comments. They go through challenges. And while we all do, there are people that bear the brunt of that a lot. And so they're coming into the workplace, whether applying for your job or coming to work, assuming they're going to see more of that. And so by thinking about how can we support this person and see them as someone that's just trying to come and have the same experience, have a normal experience at work, that's what I think can transform the actual support and understanding that often those needs and asks aren't really large, and it's just about treating that person with respect. So what about y'all?
Yeah, no, I mean, in the organizations that I've worked at, I think there really was more of that what can we do mentality, which was refreshing. I know not everyone faces that within the businesses you work within. But that was because, hey, as a $1 billion business, you really can't show up in court and be like, it was a hardship for me to buy a $200 monitor that was bigger to help this visually impaired person, whatever, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of excuses there. And so at least, for me, I've been trained to, as much as I can, go above and beyond and see it through and create, a supportive employee experience really for everyone, but especially for those that, come and they're requesting accommodations. There's always a long process. I've always had a long process in my organizations, or a thorough process is a better way to say it. Is short, but you know what I mean, of, seeing what we can do, exploring all of the potential accommodations, et cetera, so that's been positive, at least in my experience.
Yeah. And of course, I've worked for the flip of that, right? With the employers be like, for instance, a stand-up desk. Does this person really need a stand-up desk? Can't they just buy the $200 addition for the desk and themselves, or they need the pad that goes underneath their desk for foot pain, or same thing, monitors, and like mostly it's usually their manager, because it's maybe going to come out of their budget, and they're like, and I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, is the employee a good employee, regardless of if they're a good employee? But if they're a great employee, what does it matter if we spend $200 on the additional lift up desk piece for standing desk? And even back in the day, there wasn't such thing as a standing desk. God, I'm making myself sound old. But there was no such thing as standing desks. People made them. And so even like just having that ability and not worrying about a budget, but like having to convince a manager that this is a simple thing we can do for this employee. Like it might even increase their productivity. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, there should be a centralized budget for that.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're talking about, like, and that should be approved and managed elsewhere. Like, I love the organizations that have ergonomics.
Yes.
Like as part of their health and safety, where you can request those things.
Exactly.
Back in the day, I was with GE and I'm a big bitch, right? I'm like 6 foot and I have like large hands and you name it, right? They just had the little mice. I mean, my hand, I couldn't, like it was like picking up a penny every time I tried to use the mouse. Through the ergonomics, I could make the request and actually have, a mouse that fit me just for my ergonomics. And they would come and do assessments at everyone's desk, right? Because we are all different. And so I love the orgs that will focus on that because then, they're putting a lot of a strength behind medical and disability accommodations, even more so probably than others.
Well, and now you see states like, for instance, California actually has that because work from home remote has changed so much since the pandemic that California now says that you have to have, as the employer, pay a budget for those not just office supplies, but in addition to anything ergonomic. So like, I remember one time, this was early in my career, but a manager having a come apart about the person wanting to have one of those keyboards that's ergonomic. So like, it's kind of like curved.
Like yeah.
And they're not even that much money, but the person requested it. And I said, I tell you what, I said, this person is complaining about their wrist hurting. It's going to cost us more money to pay for their carpal tunnel surgery than the $25 keyboard. And I remember I was in my 20s when I told this manager, but I was just so shocked. And they were like, well, we wouldn't have to pay for their carpal tunnel. Actually, we would. It does not matter if a claim gets brought up. It does not matter if they have 40 years of typing experience. Their current employer is responsible to pay for that surgery then. But it's things like that. It's just like educating managers and knowing there are simple things we could do that's actually more cost effective than you being an ass.
Jamie, I think that's such a good point, is treating people with dignity and just treating them with basic respect, whether the answer at the end of the day is yes or no. And frequently it really should be and can be yes, but in the U.S., there are some healthcare in the U.S. is tied to employment generally, often, and our litigation system, things like that. And so I, as a lawyer, especially when I worked in the law firm environment, I spent a number of years working as a law firm where I gave guidance on what do we have to do, what's that floor as opposed to what can we do. That's why I really loved when I moved into HR and could bring that perspective. I tried to bring it as a lawyer as well, but I frequently had the conversation about what do we have to do. So things like, to the point, like a keyboard. And people would be shocked. They'd say, well, in the US, it's undue hardship. So if we have to spend money, and I'm like, well, I mean, do you want me to rattle off these court cases that will say like this spending money is not? I mean, or do you want me, what's an undue hardship is paying, like I have a good friend who I was like, what's your hourly rate? Employment lawyer for businesses, $1,700 an hour. And she's roughly my year, so about 16 years in practice, and but so I say that because so from the numbers perspective, so in HR, sometimes you have to get those leaders' attention by talking about things like legal costs, data. What is that requirement? And you have to start with your own floor, and so you can look up and see examples of it's things like training your managers. Like as I've said, I've done this training. The EOC had to approve my training. I had to go through a whole bio to show that I know what I'm talking about, which thankfully the EOC agreed. But the cost of doing that. And so there's a lot of examples of that. And so doing it before you have to. And so talking to your managers, some very basic training where your managers unless you're in the healthcare profession, they are not healthcare professionals. They don't need to be. But so the most important thing managers can do if an employee comes to them with a disability accommodation request is to be respectful. And if you don't know, say, okay, let me figure it out. And I'll reach out to our HR so it's confidential as possible. And either they may reach out directly so they have that conversation. Generally, I say that's the best path. But it is training them to be respectful of the individual, not promise anything if you don't know. Like, yeah, no worries.
Exactly.
We'll take care of it. And also then if you're the manager and someone has gone to HR and you only find out about it because HR is telling you, hey, this person gets this accommodation. Well, why didn't they come to me? I'm their manager. Because there's so much fear in the workplace and things of disabilities. Again, especially in this situation, if it's that invisible disability that you can't see it. And so they're uncomfortable letting you know about it and just knowing its comfort levels.
Beyond just the cost that you mentioned, Ashley, and the importance of educating leaders, absolutely. They're very data-driven, as are we in HR, just FYI. But sharing that data with them is very, very critical and important. But beyond the cost piece is that it's hard to do. And what I mean is we make it hard to do. And let me give you an example. We've had to, back in the day in previous business, accommodate, disabilities by renovating bathrooms, right? Or building ramps or tearing down walls to modify offices and things like that, right? And when you do internal vendor shopping and you do the invoicing and you do we make it so hard internally to do anything really. But, for me, I'm like, hey, this space would probably be better managed third party or perhaps outside of some of that. So you can move a little quicker and perhaps people, internal managers, HR, whatever, be more apt to support some of these requests. Does that make sense? Like we need to make this easier to do because this is about our people that we care for. And please, do not underestimate the profound effect it has, to welcome someone open arms with especially a visible disability and have them feel at home. I remember hiring a hearing impaired welder. And he could not get a job for over a decade. And he brought his wife, to the interview, and she did the interpreting. And he was basically like, I know you're not going to hire me because I need support. I need a welder. And you know what? A welder. I need an interpreter. We needed a welder. But he, bless him. He was just so emotional about it and just wanted that chance and opportunity, but was already defeated. And for me, I took that as a personal thing that I ran that accommodation. I had to get a third party interpreting service. I had to do the iPad thing. I had to put a monitor at his workstation that could display the words his boss was using. The boss wore a mic. That shit was so hard to do. It was so hard to invoice and whatever. That took so much of my time, to do it. And I'm like, damn, well, gosh, we don't make it easy on ourselves, to support everybody and whatever, people are going through. But really, see, the solutions were easy. It's just, it was a bitch to actually put it in, Oh my God, the bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's just the red tape. Yeah, it's all the jumping through the hoops.
Oh, but he cried when we hired. He literally cried, just the joy. And it was He was the most committed, the most loyal person and just so thankful. And he shouldn't have had to be. We should all get an opportunity to work, right? And have gainful employment. But, just that investment there, which really monies wise was like a rounding error for that organization. It really was, but it was just such a bit, all of that.
Right. But it's approval. Oh, I don't know. Another one I've seen is because frequently what you see is the manager that says, well, then everyone's going to want it. Okay. Well, this person has service animals in particular. Well, this person has a service animal. Well, now everyone's going to want to bring their pet to work. Okay. You know what? Fair enough. That is a human question that people are going to have. And there are people that, by the grace of God, don't have to think about these things and haven't thought about other people. But your job is going to be to educate them in a way and explain we support people with their needs. And when you have things like a service animal all the time, I've heard that question a number of times, and there's differences in service animals at work as an employee and service animals like customers bringing them in. And it's really important that organizations get that training for customer facing environments, but also for employees, and to see, because people will say, I have a fear, I have an allergy. And a lot of times it's figuring out how you can accommodate those things. There's a great website, I think it's jan.org, the Job Accommodation Network. Oh, wait, that is not jan.org.
I hope it was there.
No. It's askjan.org. Askjan.org.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. But it's a really great free resource that can be used. And again, it's not a substitute for individual advice, but it has a lot of conditions. So if someone comes to you and says, I have this, without asking them all the questions, just doing a little bit of work, it can say, explain to you information on that. What kind of accommodations are possible? It gives a lot of real world examples. And so, yeah, again, a lot of this is just about figuring out what you can provide and showing that, to Leigh's point, people deserve the opportunity to work gainfully. And, whether it's technologies that have been created for like remote work and those third-party interpretation services, or just, knowing just because someone is hard of hearing doesn't mean they're visually impaired. But just because they're visually impaired doesn't mean you have to yell at them. And so a lot of times these trainings are really important. And some people haven't encountered things like, different people in their lives. But so you can learn about them in a respectful way is super important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Even if, the training that you do doesn't have to just be on disabilities or what. That's so important for leaders, 1,000%. But just putting training in like on empathy or unconscious bias, you see, it just has that trickle down that, just blankets across so many different subsets here like this, and just having a more supportive, understanding sort of workplace, right?
Yeah, in our stories, we'll put in, as you're listening to this, our stories on our @HRBestiesPod social media, on Instagram in particular, we'll have links to some of those resources, the askjan.org. I talked about a YouTube video by a friend of mine from college who works now for the Department of Justice doing AD education that's really, really, really good. It's about 8 years old, but it's like a very good one. It just can open your eyes about what that experience is like, and is a good one. I've had organizations share that with their managers. So we'll share some of that on our stories, because we know it's, we are not the solve for everything, but on the business end of business and bullshit, it's really important that HR be the champion of inclusion at work.
Totally agree with that. And we also put video, just FYI, if you want to see some snippets from our podcast, those are also on the socials. So make sure you go and follow us there.
When we launched our podcast, we were asked, can we get HR Besties merch? And this was wild to us. And it really happened. Like, it wasn't just our moms asking us, although they do support us. But we had our designer make stuff all cute, like with our logo, wine glasses, sweatshirts, mugs with sayings like, don't make me use my HR voice. But then we thought, okay, how do we sell it? We use Shopify. So we can have our own site and make it easy for our Besties listeners to see what we have and grab it easily. It's much more easily than trying to visit every corporate headquarters ourselves and just show it in person. And although that does sound appealing, we'll stick to Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/HRBesties. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HRBesties to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/HRBesties.
Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Jamie, anything else to add to this conversation?
No, but I've been trying to think where I can insert ping.
Say, I'll ping you later about it. Oh, gosh. Well, then let's shift gears to questions and comments. I know we have a hard stop, Jamie. Any questions or comments, ladies? What do you got today?
I think a comment I'd add is, in addition to your employees and applicants and kind of their abilities and different needs, is being mindful of your employees who may have family members that have those disabilities and those different needs. So thinking about whether it's benefits or inclusion. And again, I know we talk about like events outside of work and optional ones. Just thinking about that when you have team members. So if you have team members and their kids have, maybe they have different physical abilities, talking to them about some of your ideas of things to do. When I was in Australia, I volunteered for All Abilities Football, which is soccer. And every Saturday morning I finished up work for the US time and I would go over and I'm not a soccer player, but I was able to pretend to be one, but working with those. And so it was eye-opening, and people in those situations would talk, when they knew I was in legal and HR, they would talk about experiences at work and ask, in the US, how are things we had a lot of conversations about that. And they had said they never realized some of the levels of support until they had, things happen at work and some of their employers do supportive things. So being mindful of family members as well.
I was just going to say, one thing that I've done in the last few places I've been is actually added that question to onboarding. Do you, not like asking, do you have a disability? I'm like more like, is there any accommodations that we should be mindful of? Because even though right now the company I'm at, we're like completely remote, we do have meetings from time to time where we would ask someone to fly in or et cetera. So knowing those ahead of time and being able to like pull a report and then figuring out who needs what access or who needs what for those. It's just something really simple. And it's you're being thoughtful because I'm sure those people may not have experienced that prior in other companies.
That's a good one. Not a question from me, but just a quick comment. Request those accommodations. And if you're with an employer that doesn't, maybe you need another employer. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need another employer that's going to accept you and support you for who you are. If you're not going to accommodate me and make me feel like I belong or I'm supported, then should I invest in you if you want to invest in me, right? So just something to think about. I know we all have bills to pay, but it takes time to find new employment. But maybe just know that you deserve to be accommodated. Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
I have that hard stop. I'm being pinged.
Oh, all right. Good. You fit it in. Love it. Well, besties, we appreciate you and we value you so much. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, share, all that fun stuff.